Hello and welcome to the Cardboard Dungeons X-Wing Ship Reviews. My name is Pat, and in this video I'm looking at the Shadowcaster expansion. This is a Scum and Villainy ship. If you're not familiar with the Shadowcaster, it is the ship flown by Ketsu Onyo, who is a former comrade of Sabine Wren on the TV show Star Wars Rebels. They did team up and she flew alongside the Rebels for an episode or two, but Ketsu still operates on the fringe of Star Wars society, so she is parked in the Scum and Villainy faction. Although she skews toward being one of the good guys more than one of the true scum. Now, this ship is a true large ship. I have to quantify that now because we've seen so many large ships in quotation marks that are really pretty small, but this is a pretty big ship. It overlaps its base quite a bit. Here it is next to the Millennium Falcon. You can see it. It does have some good side-to-side and front-to-back sides on it. Also a very colorful ship, which I think is pretty cool. And a nice-looking ship. It does look like something maybe out of Star Trek, but it does have some of that Star Wars design sensibility as well. All right, so moving right along, we're going to talk about this new rule that's going to affect a lot of what we're going to see in the cards for this ship. This is the Mobile Firing Arc, a new type of firing arc, and it's got its own little cardboard. It's a pointer, really. It sits at the base of the stand for the ship. And this brings a new action into the game, the Rotate Arc action. We haven't seen this since. I'm doing this review a little bit late in the game. The ship's been out for quite a while. But what this does is you take the Rotate Arc action or any other ability that's going to let you rotate the arc, and you basically can change the facing of that pointer to any of the 4 arcs marked out on the base. Now, this ship, of course, does have a standard front-facing firing arc that is always active. And you'll also need to use that front-facing arc for secondary weapons. But when you're making a primary weapon attack, you can either attack out of your forward-facing arc, or you can attack out of whichever arc you've got your mobile firing arc activated on. So, essentially, it gives you 2 arcs from which to make your primary weapon attacks, which is very cool. It opens up your field of fire quite a lot on this ship. I mean, it's almost like having the 180 degree arc, not quite, but the field of fire is just as good. It covers as much space, and you have the ability to change it around to fire out of the sides or out of the back, along with the front. So it's a neat idea. I kind of think the designers wish they'd come up with this back when they designed the turret primary weapon, because I could totally see something like this working on the Millennium Falcon and other ships that have the turret 360 degree field of fire. But anyways, moving along, we are going to jump into the maneuver options for this ship. This ship, by the way, is the Lancer class pursuit craft is the official name for the ship. The Shadowcaster is the title that we'll talk about later on. So we can see that for a large ship, this has a fairly amazing dial. For one thing, it can go all the way up to speed 5, which is crazy fast for a large ship. Also has no red on the dial at all except for the K-turn, which is at speed 5, so a nice long K-turn. And then everything else is either white or green. It's got every standard maneuver in the game except for the speed 1 turns. And you can see just a ton of green on that dial. It looks like 7 green maneuvers. And highly, highly mobile for this ship. And it's going to be important for one of the upgrades we're going to talk about just in a little bit. But very nice dial. The only way it could be any better is if it had those speed 1 turns. But it doesn't suffer for not having them at all. All right, moving into the stat line for the Lancer class pursuit craft. We've got an attack value of 3, agility of 2, which is pretty nice for a large ship, 7 hull, and 3 shields. Over on the action bar, the ship can take focus, target lock, evade, and rotate arc. Down on the upgrade bar, we can see that each of these ships can take 1 crew and 2 illicit upgrades. Now starting with Ketsu Onyo, the top pilot for the Lancer class. She has a pilot skill of 7, costing 38 points. And her ability says, at the start of the combat phase, you may choose a ship at range 1. If it is inside your primary and mobile firing arcs, assign 1 tractor beam token to it. So that's a pretty interesting ability. It does kind of take away a lot of your options with that mobile firing arc, because in order to use it, you basically want to have it facing forward. Unless you can get an enemy ship on the line between one of your side arcs and your front arc, which probably isn't super difficult to do, but to play it safe, you put it forward, and if you can catch an enemy in both of those arcs, they get a tractor beam token, which is nice. Tractor beam on small ships lets you move them around, and on any ship it reduces their agility by 1. So not a terrible ability, not the best ability for this ship as we're about to see. So the next pilot is Asajj Ventress, pilot skill of 6, 37 points. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Ketsu Onyo and Asajj both can take elite upgrades in addition to the other upgrade options. Asajj's ability says, at the start of the combat phase, you may choose a ship at range 1 to 2. If it is inside your mobile firing arc, assign 1 stress token to it. So this opens up from Ketsu's ability, which was at range 1 only, and in both front arc and mobile arc. This is range 1 to 2, and it only needs to be in your mobile firing arc. And the reason why her ability is so good is it synergizes really well with one of the upgrades we're going to talk about in just a few minutes here. But stress is good, of course, taking away a lot of options from enemy ships, and she has a really, really great chance of giving an enemy ship a stress every combat phase. Also pointing out now, one of the benefits of hindsight coming into this review as late as I am, this ship is widely considered in the current meta as of April of 2018, the best Scum and Villainy ship, the single best ship in Scum and Villainy arsenal, and it's because of Asajj Ventress and some of the upgrades that she can take. So factor that in when you're thinking about whether or not to buy this ship. It is an excellent ship. Next up, Sabine Wren, pilot skill of 5, 35 points. Sabine, notable, of course, for being a pilot in X-Wing that, what does she have? This is the 3rd ship, I think, that she's a pilot for now, across 2 different factions now. So Scum and Villainy Sabine, joining the Rebel Sabine, who can fly the attack shuttle and the TIE fighter, of course. Sabine's ability says, when defending against an enemy ship inside your mobile firing arc at range 1 to 2, you may add 1 focus result to your roll. Not a terrible ability, not great, because it wants you to hold focus for defense, which, unless you have a way to get multiple focus, which you can do, but, I mean, holding off on it for defense, not terrible, not super great, not as good as Asajj. And finally, the non-unique pilot, Shadowport Hunter, pilot skill of 2 and costing 33 points. All right, let's go into the upgrades that you get. There's a stack for this expansion, starting with Veteran Instincts. Always good to have another copy of this. Costing 1 point, it's an elite upgrade, increases your pilot skill value by 2. One of the best elite upgrades in the game. That hasn't changed. This has been an X-Wing since Wave 2, and still one of the very best. High pilot skill is, of course, good. All right, next we have another unique crew, Scum only IG-88D, costing 1 point. You have the pilot ability of each friendly ship with the IG-2000 upgrade card in addition to your own pilot ability. So it's kind of cool, a clever use of IG-88. Of course, if you don't recall, the IG-88s flying their ships with the IG-2000 title, they all shared their pilot abilities. So here we have a crew IG-88, and he is going to confer the pilot abilities of any other IG-88s flying their IG-2000s in your squadron, which, unless you're playing Epic, is just going to be 1. It's kind of interesting. This does have nice synergy with a couple of ships. The party bus, so-called party bus, the YV-666, that can carry a bunch of crew, and also a cannon. Synergizes well with the cannon IG-88, lets you make a cannon attack after a missed attack. So you can throw him on there and then give it that ability if you have that other IG-88 in your squadron. Kind of neat, and it's kind of gimmicky. It's not highly super competitive, because if you're going to play IG-88, you're probably going to play 2 IG-2000s. All right, Ketsu Onyo, unique crew for Scum only, costing 1 point. At the start of the end phase, you may choose 1 enemy ship inside your firing arc at range 1 to 2. That ship does not remove its tractor beam tokens. That's pretty cool. If you have heavy tractor beam in your in your squadron, ways to put tractor beams on enemy ships. So you're gonna reliably have a tractor beam token or more out every round. You can keep that pain going from round to round. Not super great, but not terrible. You kind of have to build your squadron around it to really guarantee you're going to have a lot of tractor beams out there to play with. But moving on, here is the single best crew and probably the best upgrade in this expansion. Lot's Razi is a scum-only unique crew costing 2 points. When defending, you may remove one stress token from the attacker and add one evade result to your roll. So you can probably see why that's so great, and it synergizes super, super well with Asajj Ventress. So she can reliably put stress on an enemy ship that is likely to attack her during the combat phase. And so Lots can just pull that stress off and add an evade result. And you get to wait and see the attack roll before you choose whether or not to do that. So if they whiff the attack, or if you're not worried about it, or you have an evade token already and you don't want to use her ability so they can keep the stress, you get to make that choice. So super, super good. This is pretty much a must-have upgrade along with Asajj Ventress, and part of the combo that makes her so great, and why she's considered the best current Scum and Villainy pilot. Next up, we've got a new illicit upgrade. Black Market Slicer Tools, costs 1 point. Uses an action to choose a stressed ship at range 1 to 2 and roll an attack die. On a hit or a crit, remove one stress token and deal it one face-down damage card. So this also works well with Asajj because of her reliability in putting stress tokens on enemy ships. But if you have any other way to get stress out there, this does use your action. It gives you a 50-50 shot at taking the stress off of that enemy ship, but also dealing it a face-down damage card, which of course goes through whatever shields they might have and can be devastating for low hull ships that have some shields on them, protecting them from things like critical hits and whatnot. This just bypasses it all, and you get hit anyway. All right, next up we've got Rigged Cargo Chute. This is a large ship only illicit upgrade, costing 1 point. And as an action, you can discard this card and drop a cargo token. And what the cargo token is, it's a uniquely shaped debris field that you drop, just like you would drop a bomb behind the ship. And then hopefully enemy ships will fly through it and get stress and possibly take some damage. So kind of cool. It also lets you add an obstacle to the board, which is neat. All right, next up we have CounterMeasures, a large ship-only modification, costing 3 points. At the start of the combat phase, you may discard this card to increase your agility value by 1 until the end of the round. Then you may remove one target lock from your ship, an enemy target lock from your ship. So this is kind of your panic button. It is pricey, but it's going to improve your survivability and also remove the threat of getting hit by a missile. And of course, in the game right now, there's lots of missiles that are capable of doing severe damage to your ship. So if you don't want that coming your way, you can put this on the ship. It is pricey, and it's one-time use. But as I said, if you're looking at taking a big missile hit or multiple attacks from enemies and you just want to slam that panic button and hopefully weather the storm, it is a good card for doing that. Next, we got 2 more copies of Tactical Jammer. We saw this first back on the Decimator expansion pack quite a while ago. It is a large ship only modification, 1 point cost. Your ship can obstruct enemy attacks. Sounds better on paper than it has proven to be in reality. You still have to fly around, and eventually you're going to break that cohesion of trying to hide your other ships behind whatever ship has this on it. And enemies, enemy pilots are going to be savvy and try to get around it anyway. So the usefulness on this one, I think, is fairly limited. It's pretty good on the approach. Sometimes you can hide behind the large ship with this one and gain that extra defense die. But after that, once the whole skirmish starts in full, it's not super great. There's better modifications, I think, in most cases, but it is what it is. All right, now we've got a Lancer class pursuit craft only modification, gyroscopic targeting, costing 2 points. This is another stapled on if you're going to fly the ship, you want this modification on the ship, because what it does for you is at the end of the combat phase, if you executed a speed 3, 4, or 5 maneuver this round, you may rotate your mobile firing arc. So you can get your firing arc set up where you want it for the next round without having to spend your action on it, which is fantastic. And of course, we saw on the maneuver dial, there's a lot of options at speed 3, 4, and 5 for this ship. It's got every speed 3, and then 4 and 5, it's got both of those straight. So you got a lot of options for doing that. This ship wants to zip around real fast because it doesn't really care about keeping things in its front arc, because you got that mobile arc, so you can always spin that around and have it facing back or just side or wherever you need it. So you should have this every single round, if possible, if you're going to put it on it. Great upgrade and a must-have for this ship. And then lastly, we have the title, Shadowcaster. Lancer class, pursuit craft only, of course, 3 points. After you perform an attack that hits, if the defender is inside your mobile firing arc and at range 1 to 2, you may assign the defender 1 tractor beam token. So this, again, synergizes fantastically well with Asajj Ventress, because her ability also wants enemy ships inside your mobile firing arc and at range 1 to 2. And it lets you give them a tractor beam token. So you can add a little bit of insult to injury. You can lower their agility for whatever other ship you have firing after your Shadowcaster is going to benefit from having the reduced agility on that target. And you can also reposition them, hopefully right onto an asteroid or something nasty like that. So alright, that is the Shadowcaster expansion. Very good ship, lots of cool options. The mobile firing arc is really neat. As I said, I have a feeling that had they come up with the idea earlier, it probably would have replaced that primary turret, because it does require a degree of skill to use and use well, as opposed to just having the turret where you can always fire all around, which is nice. But I mean, in the current state of the game, I think the designers have been struggling to balance between wanting you to take ships that maintain the forward firing arc only, but also knowing that there are these ships in the game that can just fire wherever they want, and those ships are always going to be good. As always, thanks for watching the Cardboard Dungeon. I'll see you next time.